while I look like I am all of those things, and on paper I am also just like everybody else in the sense that I take on more than I can chew. I overcommit. I say yes to things out of fear. I people please.
Even now,
absolutely. We're so flawed. That's like one of the things I just want everybody to know is there is no version of us going through this life and being anywhere near perfect.
Hi, besties. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you enjoyed your long weekend if you're in the United States. I know I did. I spent most of my time outside. But while that was happening, there were some things going on behind the scenes related to the Blake Lively case. Now, if you know anything, this week is an interesting one because if Baldoni wants to appeal the case, that would be due by Wednesday. He would have to notify the appeals court his intentions to appeal. Thus far, there has been nothing filed in that matter. But behind the scenes, it would appear that Ryan Reynolds is driving this bus as it relates to this lawsuit. And why do I say that? Well, I think it's obvious, but Ryan Reynolds is known for being kind of a controlling guy, right? His ex-wife, Scarlett Johansson, mentioned that he was very on top of her. Relationships don't work when there's jealousy and control and not wanting the other person to succeed and having a husband that wants you there at their beck and call and getting upset when you're not, all of these things. And, during the period that he was with Scarlett and along before he met Blake and before his PR cleaned up his image, Ryan was known as kind of a hothead that popped off. And suddenly, when he got new PR around the time he married Blake, suddenly he was morphed into this family man that didn't have any of those issues. And he had a wife that was his doting wife that popped out 4 kids for him in the span of 10 years. And his career thrived, while his wife, who had been well known for her roles on Gossip Girl, and doing some films thereafter, her career all but stuttered, faltered, fell apart. She had a string of box office flops. Her last film, The Rhythm Section, was the biggest bomb ever in box office history, losing the studio more than $50 million. So her comeback was important because if she flopped another film, well, it wasn't going to be good for Blake. But Blake's career is only a secondary issue to the ambition of Ryan Reynolds. And Ryan Reynolds' hands were all over this story. And while the New York Times today published an article saying that it's a misogynistic cesspool of creators that are attacking and making anti-Blake Lively, which I want to preface this by saying it was published as an op-ed, an opinion piece. I think they've learned their lessons, perhaps that making false allegations against someone should be an opinion. And so they are putting this under an op-ed, meaning these are the opinions of Kat Tenbarge. Kat Tenbarge, who's been fired from numerous outlets, including NBC News. She also was let go by Business Insider. Kat has had a long history of being and fraternizing with problematic content creators, and once aligned with numerous content creators that on this platform later were found out to be frauds, who she used as valid sources for her content. Kat is someone that finds joy in canceling people, and she's not satisfied unless people lose everything. In fact, when she ran a series of stories on David Dobrik, she was upset that he wasn't dropped from everything. She was upset that Jeffree Star wasn't arrested after her piece about him, or that he didn't lose all of his endorsements or products, or his career didn't get completely shuttered. When she was with Business Insider, her favorite thing to do was to cancel YouTubers under this platform of social justice warrior. Now, I'm not a conservative, so I'm not trying to be political here. I'm just saying that's what she did. Okay. And now she's published a new article under the op-ed, meaning this is not fact. It's her opinion. And she's regurgitating the same talking points that were already reiterated by dozens of other pieces on dozens of other outlets that she is just putting out as her own opinion. Is it really your opinion when every other outlet has the same opinion? I'm just saying. But she cites a YouTuber. I'm not going to say their name because, quite frankly, I don't know who this person is and I don't want to give them attention. But she says that this is a misogyny slop ecosystem in which pop culture sleuths on TikTok and Reddit, gossip hounds like Perez Hilton, and even the press junket reporter Shasti Flaw, whose awkward 26 interview with Miss Lively exploded on YouTube last August, pump out weekly or even daily anti-lively content that nets millions of views. Their theories often wind up in outlets like the Daily Mail. Now, I don't know if you know who Shasti is, but she has a channel that her video where Blake was really rude to her when she congratulated Shasti congratulated Blake on her pregnancy while she was promoting the Woody Allen film Cafe Society. And Blake's like, "Oh, congratulations on your bump." And Shasti wasn't pregnant. It was really rude. And then she basically ignored her the entire interview. She's been trying to frame Shasti as a part of this smear campaign. And the reason why I'm bringing her up is because her name is in a record that was uploaded and filed in court yesterday. And to date, Shasti has not been subpoenaed. It's odd to me that she's the center of everything, and yet they haven't subpoenaed her. Why? If they believe that Shasti's video that she had with Blake is the center of this smear campaign and that she did it on behalf of someone else, why haven't they subpoenaed her and asked her directly? Is it the same reason why the New York Times didn't contact her and ask her if she was part of the smear campaign? It seems odd that they're subpoenaing, Candace Owens and Popcorn Planet, Andy, and Perez. And Perez, as of yesterday, said he has still not received a subpoena. Andy has and Candace have, and both have adamantly denied they've been paid or to do anything or orchestrating anything for anyone. And in both have said that they were going to vigorously defend their sources, right? And I keep thinking, why aren't they subpoenaing Shasti? Why aren't they? It seems strange. And this was her response to this. Kat Tenbard's recent New York Times op-ed claims to spotlight misogyny in media, but instead reads like the one-sided defense of a Hollywood star with a highly curated narrative. Ryan Reynolds. By painting independent creators and journalists as part of misogyny slop ecosystem, the piece reduces valid evidence-based scrutiny to clickbait outrage, all while ignoring the real power dynamics at play. I've been covering this case not out of hate, but out of belief and accountability for powerful men and powerful women. When celebrities use legal threats, strategic lawsuits, and coordinated PR to silence criticism, it's not misogyny to ask questions. It's journalism. What's troubling is how quickly criticism is now refamed as abuse if it doesn't serve the approved narrative. The Times could have taken the opportunity to explore that complexity. Instead, it amplified one side's version of events and dismissed all dissent as part of a toxic ecosystem. That kind of framing doesn't protect women, it protects power. And finally, it's worth noting that one of the central voices quoted in this article, a YouTuber known as Ofidoki, has repeatedly used my copyrighted content without permission. After I filed a copyright infringement notice, her content was removed. That's who the Times chose to elevate as a feminist authority. The irony speaks for itself. So I agree with Shasti there. And I actually think that she's an incredible journalist. Think that she's seeking accountability for herself, seeking accountability for what they've done to her, because they're dragging her into something that she has nothing to do with. Her name continues to come up on all of these legal documents, even today. Documents filed yesterday in court. Her name all over it, along with other creators. And the narrative here is that anyone that posts content that is critical or perhaps unbiased to Blake and Ryan is somehow a part of a misogynistic ecosystem online. I had a teacher one time tell me that when you don't have arguments and you can't fight with an argument, you resort to name calling. And misogynistic slop ecosystem is a hyperbolic name calling of someone. That's it. When they can't fight based on facts and when they reduce themselves to ignoring court records and they refuse to read the court records and they criticize those of us who do and say that we're crazy for reading these records. Like, why would you do that? Why would you want the facts? You just are all misogynistic because you want to be informed. That, my friends, is propaganda, and it's called gaslighting. And Shasti's name was on a filing along with other content creators. And I said last week that Ryan Reynolds has exposed himself as to being behind this, right? Because he claims that he was the CEO of Van Zandt who obtained all of the records from Jen Abel's phone. Okay. And he claims he's the CEO and that there's no women on this company. So is it really misogyny? Or is Ryan Reynolds using his wife as a shield for payback? Is he jealous? Does he view Baldoni as a romantic rival? These are questions we still don't know, but something showed up in their search terms that they want the people, two of TAG employees, to search for on their phones that I thought that's a weird thing to search for. What does that have to do with a smear campaign? An attorney representing one former employee of the agency group and a current employee of the agency group who worked for Melissa Nathan and a part of her team. They said that they would be willing to search devices based on a very narrow, limited of Blake, Lively, Ryan Reynolds, Justin Baldoni. It ends with us, IEWU, Betty Buzz, Blake Brown, Aviation, Mint Mobile, Maximum Effort Productions, Wayfair, and Sarowitz. So they were proposing they would search for these on the two phones or the digital evidence for these two people. Well, their attorneys are basically saying that they need more time because late last week, they expanded Blake's team, a drastically expanded search terms, and that they would agree to an extension through July 14th. And they have not had a opportunity to review everything that's been taken from their phones because they don't even have the data yet because the third party, the vendor that they're using hasn't provided it to them. And they apparently, Blake Lively wants all of this information so she can prepare for her deposition, which is interesting because usually when you prepare for a deposition, you're preparing for the evidence that the other side is going to use against you, not the evidence you want to prove your case against them. But I want to note that what she wants and what they're proposing, that these two former employees, one former employee and what, the current employee provide to them and the search terms that they want them to look at, I thought was kind of wild. I mean, for instance, there's a lot of stuff here about a marketing plan. I believe and I thought that the marketing plan was what Ryan Reynolds did, right? It would have seemed that Ryan is offended that people didn't like his marketing of the film. They didn't like the way that he treated domestic violence by turning it into a joke where they talked about florals and did these cutesy videos where they made cookies together and minimized the severity of what the film was about and tried to reframe it as a rom-com and confuse people. And book readers know what this book was about. You can't confuse people. You simply can't. You cannot confuse people about what they've read. They know what they've read. They know what the book is about. But then to say that it's a rom-com and it's really about, being with your besties and it's a movie for everyone, even children, I would never watch that film with my son, by the way. But there's some things in here that they want, and it would appear that it's not about Blake. And in fact, the smear campaign that Blake says is about her marketing of it. But who was the one that created and drafted the marketing? Ryan Reynolds. So is the lawsuit really about Blake or is it about Ryan and his marketing company? Is it really about sexual harassment or is it about his marketing company getting criticized by the wider public? And the wider public weren't aware at that time that it was his company doing that, by the way. So he wants them to search for marketing plan or market or marketing or marketed or markets. He also wants them to domestic violence or DV or victim or hope or triumph. They also want discussions about lawsuits and Brian Friedman. They want them to search for Megan Kelly, Candace, Billy Bush, Andy Signor, Popcorn Planet, Perez Hilton, or Mario Lavendaria, or Shasti Flaw, or Perez, or Sarah Nathan, or Bazooka, or James, or Jim, or with 50 Bazooka red seat. Please search the following as recipients as well as such terms as Candace Owens, Billy Bush, Andy Signor, Popcorn Planet, Perez Hilton, and Mario Lavendaria. So it's weird, right? Like, why does he care about these content creators? Why haven't they subpoenaed Shasti? She's on this document. They want proof that they communicated with Shasti, and they will find none. But they don't want any proof that they ever talked to Shasti. So what does that say? How can Shasti's video be a part of the smear campaign if they don't even want proof they talked to her? They also want information on Scooter Braun. And here's where things get really interesting. Very interesting. In a bullet point, the second to the bottom, there's a series of topics related to harassment. Okay. And in it, it says firing or apology or apologize. Firing. Who is getting fired? Apology or apologize. Is that related to the claims against Ryan Reynolds? Firing, wouldn't that be him getting who got fired? How would anyone get fired? They weren't sex, consent, kiss, lip, or assault. I thought they said that they never brought up the fact that there was sexual assault. Why are they discussing assault? Touch, gaze, breastfeed, breastfed, breastfeed, childbirth, or nurse, or pregnant, or partum, like postpartum, right? Or genitalia, penis, or porn, nude or nudity, or naked, or intimate, or intimacy, or objectified, or defame, destroy, payback, or revenge, or cancel, or target, or discredit, or ruin, or abuser, or hurt, or criticism, or criticize, or toxic, or problematic, or nightmare, or victim, or difficult, or crazy, or nuts, or worst, or birthing scene, or bitch, or slut, or cunt, or boob, or affair. Affair. Bully, bullied, princess, diva, mean, whine, whining, fat, weight, diet, chub, or thin, or skinny. Hoover, or Jenny, or Slate, or Isabella, or Farrar, or Brandon, Sklenar, or Plank, or Hassan. Why is affair on there? And why is assault on there? What does that have to do with sexual harassment? Are they trying to collect evidence of a discussion about an affair? Is Ryan trying to figure out if there was an affair because he doesn't believe his wife? Is Blake searching for evidence that an affair wasn't exposed or an attempted affair was exposed? What does an affair have to do with retaliation for sexual harassment? The fact that so much of this is not about sexual harassment, but instead about content creators and whether or not she was difficult or had an affair with him. And so much of it is about the marketing. Who do you think is really behind it? Who benefits the most for the marketing? Ryan Reynolds. Who did the marketing? Ryan Reynolds. Who would be offended if the marketing wasn't received well? Ryan Reynolds. Who took over the marketing from Sony? Ryan Reynolds. Blake would know if there was an affair, wouldn't she? So why do they need to search for affair? I'm telling you guys, Ryan's behind all of it. Well, Blake is likely a part of these decisions and working with Ryan. It's clear that, to me at least, Ryan is one driving this bus. And he's the one that's offended that his marketing company has taken a hit, that they put out a really bad campaign that sparked a ton of backlash and was something that victims of domestic violence were hurt by, and they found it dismissive of them. And so instead of him taking accountability and possibly apologizing two survivors, Ryan himself and his company. Instead, he wants to flip the narrative, right? And he wants people to think that no, 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 no. Blake is the victim and he is the victim. I mean, he even wants them to search for Wrexham and these one off businesses like his investment in a racing company, which has nothing to do with Blake. It's obvious to me that this is a lawsuit of Ryan Reynolds against Baldoni because, as Ryan has said, he's jealous and he wants what Nice Pool has, his gold-plated guns and his dog. And Ryan is the mastermind. He exposed himself today. How does this correspond or correlate to the content creators? It's simple. Ryan himself has said that he uses deflection as a maladaptive coping mechanism. He deflects what he's done onto other people, and he admits that it causes him trouble in his own life. That's what maladaptive is, right? So he uses a strategy of deflecting what he's done onto someone else. So for Ryan, he wants to deflect his choice, his marketing onto, the criticism of the marketing onto an untraceable smear campaign. And most importantly, he also wants you guys to believe that any criticism of him is from a misogynistic group of haters that are going after Blake Lively because she's a woman. When the truth is if Ryan had chivalry, an ounce of it in his bones, he would stand up and make himself known that he's the one that started this. It's his jealousy and his rage and his paranoia and his anger and his narcissism that continues to fuel it. And he continues to try to discredit and target content creators through subpoenas and then uses, the feminist journalists like Kat Tenbarge and Taylor Lorenz and Stephanie McNeil to post and publish regurgitated propaganda and asking them to ignore critical thinking and court records. Is that, as Shasti said, the approved narrative? I think so. And I think the more we learn about what they are looking for, it's clear. It's Ryan and his ego and his narcissism and his jealousy that are after Justin Baldoni. And Shasti is a scapegoat, and they will never make me believe otherwise. Are you shocked about this? Tell me in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, bestie.